quiet. What have you done now?
Maneuvering control, come and shallow to 500 feet.
What the hell's going on, Eddie?
Emergency stations, captain to the control room.
Oh my God.
Where's Peckish? Where's Peckish?
Pyramids!
What a helpful chap.
We've lost one of our nuclear submarines.
Yes, I'll put our best man on it at once. Commander, this tracing means that the Russians can track our nuclear submarines underwater and sink them.
That missing submarine had 16 Polaris missiles aboard.
Take, we have a contact in Egypt?
M will give you the details. We leave tonight.
Every person who even comes into contact with that microphone is to be eliminated.
Commander James Bond, licensed to kill, and has done so on numerous occasions.
You did save my life.
We all make mistakes, Mr. Bond.
James Bond, and the woman is Major Amasova, a Russian agent. Let them get ashore, and then kill them.
Ever got a feeling somebody doesn't like you? My name is Bond. James Bond.
Well. A British agent in love with a Russian agent. Détente indeed. I'm not interested in extortion. I intend to change the face of history.
James, I need you.
So does England.
Seal the operation!
Can you swim? We've really got to stop eating like this.
Well done, James.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to James Bond, with your host, Mike Kalinowski, and myself, Brad Gilmore, promoting our brand new book, Bond, James Bond, exploring the shaken and stirred history of Ian Fleming's 007. This will be a limited podcast series that will dive into every single James Bond movie, and we will break them down. We will give our opinions, our hot takes, or whatever comes across our mind in the world of MI6's greatest secret agent, James Bond 007. We hope that you enjoy the podcast, so much so that you go to bondjamesbondbook.com and order our brand new book, available on bondjamesbondbook.com or wherever books are sold. Let's enjoy the podcast.
Nobody does it better. Makes me feel sad for the rest. Nobody does it half as good as you. Baby, you're the best. I wasn't looking, but somehow you found me. I tried to hide from your love.
And we're back here on Bond, James Bond, the companion podcast for the book, Bond, James Bond, exploring the shaken and stirred history of Ian Fleming's 007, available on bondjamesbondbook.com. Now that the pitches are out of the way, I welcome to the show Mr. Mike Kalinowski.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
How are
you?
you, Mike? I'm well, man.
Can't wait to jump into this one. Kidding me?
This is a great one. We're going to talk about the spy who loved me.
All right, so we're on what? Number 10?
This is the 10th James Bond movie.
This is, for me, if we're going in chronological order, this is the one where Bond kicks into gear. Like, all the ones before this, to varying degrees of good to great, but this is the one that I'm like, okay, here we go. All his two kind of getting his feet wet, finding his place where he finally, this is to me Moore's, like he finds, a lot of people say this is his greatest one. I don't think that is. But everything just lined up, the gadgets, the girls, the locations, the story. This is where it kicked off for me into the stratosphere.
Well, let's think about it. This is the 10th one. I think that this is from his first 3. If we go Live and Let Die, Man with the Golden Gun, and The Spy Who Loved Me, this is his best of those 3 for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. I really, really, really like this one. I mean, where do you want to start on it? This seems to be your movie, so I'm going to let you drive the conversation. Where do you want to start on this one?
I don't know, dude. Like just for me, okay, let's talk about this. Like, you know, both the original, the one we talked about, the first one was very kind of, you know, set in Harlem and a lot of Americanized stuff in there and the voodoo. Next one, while we talked about, like, I did love the plot, there was so much that didn't work. Like the villain's grand scheme didn't really work for me. This to me just feels like a spy movie. Mm-hmm. It just has that. And I know we talked a little in a previous episode, like a travelogue was a critique that they said of a certain film, but I think travelogue should be Bond. I think we should see different parts of the world that we wouldn't see. It just has this grand scheme. I mean, we got like 2 great gadgets in the car, the Lotus going underwater, and then the jet ski. And that's enough we don't talk. We talk about it in the book. Like a lot of times Bond gadgets predated what would they eventually be. Like jet ski was a new thing. Like people didn't have jet skis back then. And he's got a jet ski. Like as a kid watching this, Bond on a jet ski, the coolest thing in the world. You know, Barbara Bach, Major Amasova, like, my God, come on now. Curt Jurgens is Stromberg with Atlantis. He's got an underwater submarine base. What? And then the base at the end is inside a tanker, and they built the tanker and they're fighting inside that thing. Like, it doesn't get better than this.
No, this is really good. You actually got me really excited. Just thinking
it takes the best stuff from Moore or from Connery, like the volcano layer. It takes the great story from On Her Majesty's Secret Service, you know, and blends it all together with Moore in there and his comedy gold. I'm gonna talk about so many damn quotes of his in this film that are just comedy gold.
This one is, again, you said it was the 10th James Bond movie. It was based on the Ian Fleming book, The Spy Who Loved Me, which was the 10th James Bond book. Interestingly enough, coincidentally enough. And this is the one that look, here's the thing. Depending on who you talk to, this was the one that had to work for Bond because they were a little bit shaken.
Were they stirred?
I set myself up for that. They were shaken by, you know, okay, on Her Majesty's Secret Service wasn't well received at the box office. Diamonds Are Forever did better. Live and Let Die did on par, and then Man with the Golden Gun kind of flopped a little bit. So they were worried going into this one how many more they could crank out, because at the time, I don't believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong or if you know any other knowledge, I don't think any other franchise. I don't even know if there was any other franchise.
There wasn't.
There wasn't anything that had 10 movies.
You'd said it last episode, like they had taken a little bit of a pause after Man with the Golden Gun because there's a 3-year gap. And I would think, knowing, I didn't realize how bad it had done, you know, and not even just financially with the critics, like the scope of this film, it looks like they went the opposite direction. Like, not like, hey, we got to scale back. We don't know if audience, let's just try and get them back on track. We'll do a From Russia with Love, smaller spy story, you know, maybe not as big a budget. No, it seems like this film, they said, you know what? We got to go balls to the wall, throw money, make it bigger and better. Like they went the opposite way, and it worked. Clearly it worked.
No, it definitely, this one works. This one works on so many levels. Again, it's even the title, The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah.
It's just
such a great, ominous, romantic. That's the thing we don't talk enough. I don't think you and I've talked enough about with Bond is the romanticism of a spy. That's what this film has. The romanticism, like, you know, foreign lands and foreign agents and your female, you know, counterpart that's just as good as you are, and you're in love but you're not, and you're trying to kill each other. Like, it's just the romanticism of a spy this film has with Egypt. Like all the Egypt stuff was so good.
The opening scene is
one of the best.
Again, we talked about it in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, kind of an idea that came from a conversation that the producers had with George Lazenby.
Yeah.
But when Bond skis off the side of that mountain, you're thinking, oh my God, what's happening?
What happened?
And then he pulls the parachute and it's the Union Jack. Boom. And then and you see the hands like kind of over the Union Jack holding it. And then the Carly Simon song hits, which is I love this song. I listen to this song all the time. Nobody does it better.
Oh, it's a great song. Great song.
This is one of my favorite Bond songs. I won't reveal how much of a favorite, but it's very high on the list for me of favorite Bond songs.
Well. Yep.
Just nails it. And then after that, we kind of get into the plot of the movie, which is there's Bond, and then there's Barbara Bach.
Yeah.
Agent Triple X. Anya Amasova, or what was her name? Anya.
I always say it was Anya Amasova.
Amasova. Yeah. Something like that. It's Russian.
Triple X.
Triple X is what everyone knows her as, which again is sort of is that a double entendre? Because I think of Xander Cage as Triple X, but the movies that Vin Diesel had, but I think that XXX, especially in the 70s, was meant to like
a Triple X film.
Yeah, like a Triple X film, right? Yeah. It's a double entendre, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. She's in this movie, and again, on just pure physical beauty.
Stunning.
Incredibly beautiful is Barbara Bach. Like another level.
Yeah.
Moore might have had the best run of beautiful women to this point.
Okay, so let me think here.
Right?
I mean,
well, I think if we're talking
I would say he's got the best run of Bond women.
Yeah.
In general, over everyone.
Now, if we talk about like pure physical beauty, like what their physical appearance is, I think Pierce probably has the run of runs.
I don't know. I'm going to disagree with you.
Really?
I'm going to disagree.
How can Halle Berry be on somebody's list and that not be the automatic winner? You have Halle Berry.
I know.
You have Rosamund Pike. You have Denise Richards.
Rosamund Pike doesn't do it for me.
Okay, well,
I think she's as an actress. I think she's incredibly talented.
Fierce as an actress.
Insane as an actress.
Yeah.
As a just as an
like as a sultry Bond girl, she's not there for you.
She's a great agent, like a great agent, but as a sultry Triple X agent, doesn't hold a candle to Barbara Bach.
Like but
don't
physical,
even bring up Denise Richards. Don't even
physical attraction, no. Denise Richards.
Dude, you and I are two different age groups, and it hit you probably differently than it hit me.
It definitely hit me some kind of way.
Terry Hatcher, I'd say.
Terry Hatcher?
Terry Hatcher. Totally out of place in a Bond film.
Sure.
Shouldn't have been in there.
Sure.
But
agreed.
Works.
Lois Lane, though. Come on, man.
I know. That's how I know her. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll get to Pierce in a minute.
We'll get to him.
But Barbara Bach, Jane Seymour, Maud Adams. I mean, he was dealing with the
Carolyn Bouquet. I always forget it. Is it Bouquet or Bouquet?
I think it's Bouquet is how I say it.
Bouquet. Yeah. Well, you'll see my rankings of Bond women when we do that. Our top 10, but she's up there.
Yes.
Even more. I'll say this with Moore's women, even the supporting characters, one or two lines that die or something, or just pass that information to Moore, were stunning.
Yes.
Stunning.
Yeah, and forgive us for just talking about these actresses' physical beauty, but it's such a big thing of Bond. It's such a thing of Bond.
It's come full circle because the women with Craig now.
Yes.
It's come full circle. The women, which was so great with what they did with Casino Royale, like, you know what? Bond's always been for the guys with the ladies. We're going to make it for the ladies this time with him coming out of the water Ursula Andress. Like, it's like, They knew what they're doing. It came around full circle.
Oh, I cannot wait.
And these women, we talk about the bottom. Poor Moore never gets talked about because now they're like, oh, Timothy Dalton and Bond. Oh, that gets my different feelings than Pierce Brosnan. Even now, man, gorgeous.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Roger
Connery.
Moore. It's funny every time I
never gets that.
No,
I mean Moore never gets that.
No, he doesn't.
The love, the sultry love.
Whenever I am watching one of these with my fiance, I always say so. This is my exact line. So what do we think of him? Right? Every time there's a new Bond. Like, I just want to know, like, what, okay, Connery she thought was hot. So when we were watching Live and Let Die, I'm like, what do we think of Roger? And she's like, I mean, he's handsome, you know, but it's not the same reaction.
No. It's like, he's like your uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was a handsome man of the time, right?
He's a very good looking guy.
Yeah.
Very good looking guy. I don't know if it's because he didn't take himself seriously and he tried to kind of play up. He's thought of in the broadest sense of Bonds as the comedic Bond.
Mm-hmm.
He just was. But I'll say this. So 2 of my favorite lines of all time are from this film. One, he's fighting. I'm going to look up his name right now to make sure I have his name right. Oh God. Sander, the bald guy.
Yes.
He's got him up on the building. He's off. He's got his tie, holding on to Bond's ties. And he's like, where's Feckish? He's like, pyramids. And he just goes, poof, and knocks his tie out and drops him, kills him. Brilliant.
Yes.
Brilliant. And then my favorite scene of probably almost any Bond film. He's sitting there. He's in like a tent in Egypt, and he's got like the Egyptian headwear on. Right. He's all dressed. And he's smoking the pipe, and they're like, well, "Mr. Bond, would you care to spend the evening and dine in our hospitality or whatever?" And he looks over at the woman, and he looks at the camera, and goes, "Well, when one is in Egypt, one should delve deeply into its treasures." Yeah. Like, what? What? It's the best. Are you kidding me?
That's a great one.
Well, and he says it so deadpan. He's not winking at the audience. He's not kind of like raising his eyebrows. Just like, well, when is in Egypt, one should delve deeply into its treasures. Like, just brilliant. Well, like, I mean, that to me, God, I love Roger Moore. I love him.
The one at the end of the movie is the one that sticks out to me. Right? Is they're making out and they're in whatever that kind of like boat,
like
submarine.
A sub, like it was the evacuation pod thing from the Atlantis.
And you know the little curtain comes off and 007 triple X, and then it's, what are you doing? Keeping the British end up, sir.
Like, no, we talk about Moore, and he doesn't give credit. No other Bond could deliver those lines like he could.
No,
like he delivers those like any other Bond tried it. I mean, that's why a lot of the especially the later Dalton stuff doesn't work for me. Like Die Another Day, I think would get so much better reception if it was Moore. If Moore had done that film, or they tried to do a film with Moore, because there's so many like what I call the Mooreisms of that film. You know, his in World Is Not Enough, The Christmas Comes Once a Year. Like if Moore would have delivered that, it would have just worked so good. Dalton's, he for me worked better when he was a little more straight laced than the quippy stuff. But they were trying to find what's work. But like this film, like that stuff. But then like. Jaws. We get Jaws.
Jaws. Talk about Jaws.
Pre-Moonraker.
Yes.
This guy is terrifying.
Scary.
Richard Kiel, terrifying. You watch this movie. I don't care if you're a kid, you're an adult. You see this 7-foot mountain of a man, like looks like Bigfoot is a human.
Yeah.
Metal teeth. And it turns out from all the interviews and all the nicest guy in the world, sweetest, gentlest guy in the world, like, but to me, like you talked a lot about with Goldfinger with Oddjob. Like to me, Jaws, that's when I think of henchmen of Bond, Jaws, hands down.
Yeah, no, man. Jaws. You know what? And it's also when you watch all these movies, and it was like back in the day they call it was TNN was I think the name of the channel.
The Bond Marathons.
The Bondathons on TNN that became Spike TV that is now Paramount Network or whatever.
That's right.
But it was always Thanksgiving, I believe. They would do the Bondathon.
That's right, buddy boy.
Yeah, and
Thanksgiving.
And I remember watching it, and so they would play all the Roger Moore ones like back to back to back to back to back to back to back. And so I was always like, you confused the first 2 Roger Moores together, Golden Gun and Live and Let Die. I always confused where Jaws was. Like, was he in all the Roger Moore movies? Was he just in one? I couldn't ever remember. For a long time, I thought he was in every Roger Moore movie.
Yeah.
He's only in 2.
Yeah, and you think about it, it's like, oh, he's only in 2. He just had such a big presence. You felt like he was in all of them. And because every time he would just pop up.
Right.
In Moonraker, he pops up at the beginning. You're like, what? Yeah. But just in this film, Jaws. Oh man.
He is just so great.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just think like when someone hits it so perfectly, like a character, and they make return appearances, I think that's kind of why you just assume they're in more of the movies.
Yeah.
Like even I had to look it up, but Wayne Knight, who plays Newman in Seinfeld,
right?
There was 180 episodes of Seinfeld. If you were to ask me how many episodes was Newman in, I'd say probably like 100. Newman's
100 and there's 189. You said
there's 180.
I would have thought he'd been more. I'd say like probably. So okay, so I would say not the first season. I'd say probably 120, 130 episodes.
He was only in 48 episodes. 48.
Really?
But it's the same thing like Jaws. It was so great that you just assumed he was all over the place.
And speaking of people that were in them, like for me, this film started like we got in Walter Godel as Gogol, the Russian kind of head of the Russian security. But
the Russian M.
They always had like with M, it was like the Minister of Defense. And it was this shorter guy, and I'm looking up his name is Jeffrey Keane. And as a kid, when you're watching these, M was the guy that gave him the job. But then they're bringing these other parts. But now when I watch them, it's like, oh, it's part of the politics of MI6. It's just there, like with the Craig films with the character of Tanner.
Yes,
like the support staff and so with those films with Walter Gogol, but he was always so good. I always liked that guy. He was always the Russian. I think he did 4 films, 4 of the more films. But it just helped build the world of Bond, and it helped, like we said, kind of started building a little bit of a continuity between not just M and Moneypenny. Now the Russians also have a kind of liaison as well.
Yeah.
So,
you're able to bring that in, and it is interesting.
And Triple X being so important, we kind of saw the Russians version of MI6 in the 00 program.
Ringo Starr, you lucky SOB, who ends up with Barbara Bach. They're married.
Anyone likes Barbara Bach. I'm going to say this right now, Ringo Starr. It's a terrible movie, but as a kid watching this thing, it's kind of like one of the, how people talk about like your kind of coming of age moments. There's a movie called Caveman.
Never heard of it.
Never look it up. It's Ringo Starr and Barbara Bach's in it. Barbara Bach plays like this. Of course, they're all in like fur bikinis and stuff. Oh, yeah, as a kid. Caveman. Ringo Starr. I want to say it's not Tanya Roberts is in it. It might be her. There's a blonde that he falls for. Barbara Bach is like the sexy cave woman that wants to steal him away from like the kind of average cave woman that does fall for him. But yeah,
the average cave woman.
Yeah. Look it up. It's called Caveman. Bibiani will know this movie. Bibiani will know.
Yeah.
Caveman.
I need to look that one up. Again, there's just so much this movie does right. Is there anything else you want to really pay attention to in The Spy Who Loved Me, other than it brought the series back? But what were you about to say?
Well, I was going to ask you, what, if anything, doesn't work for you? Because now we're thinking about this. Every film we've talked about, there's something I didn't like or a lot I didn't like. I can't think of something with this film that I'm just like, yeah, it doesn't work for me. Like I loved, Naomi, the girl in the helicopter.
Yes,
that to me started. We bring in with the villainous henchwoman. It's like she to me was like the precursor to the cigar girl in World Is Not Enough. Like the precursor, there are always these like gorgeous henchwomen.
The cigar
and that's
girl.
been a history. But there was like a cigar girl.
Oh man,
that was Maria Conchita Alonso? No, that's not her.
No,
Catalina.
No. I think. What did you say at first?
No, it's not her. I'm thinking from Running Man, Maria Conchita Alonso. No, but it's Maria.
It's a 3-name thing.
Yep. I'll have to look it up when we get there.
Yeah.
But Cigar Girl.
Oh, she is sensational. Sensational.
But yes, so Naomi, just like the Bond girls, we're going away from like characters like Tiffany Case. These just bumbling, who are good to look, nice to look at, and were the eye candy for Bond in the films. But now we bring this kind of menace to them. Like she's terrifying. We got that helicopter with the missiles and stuff. So I can't think of his plot. Was pretty simple. Hijacking all the submarines, Russian and American submarines, that brings Russia and America together, or Russia and British submarines, and brings the two unions together. The sub stealing, just the action scene in there. the Atlantis, like little things like Stromberg doesn't like shaking hands.
Yeah.
Like little things. I cannot think of any like model work. You want to talk about Derek Meddings and all them and the special effects and Ken Adam, the models in this film, model I think is a forgotten art. Everything's CGI now.
Yeah, you're talking about, and for people who don't know, you're talking about the miniatures. Of the sets.
Models, yes, yeah. Not models.
Not like, because we were talking about Cigar Girls, so I just want to make sure people know what we're talking about.
Miniatures, the miniature model work of the film. Like they built like the scale Atlantis, and just watching it now, you're just like models I'm old. I'm older when it comes to movies and they just look, I love models. And Bond was always so great with their model making and stuff like that. So there's just nothing in this. What about you though? Is there anything that doesn't
There's
click?
one, no, but if I'm like really trying to think
come on.
and trying to find one thing.
Shake and insert history, buddy. We're doing all of it.
There's only one line that doesn't make any sense to me. And it's after, I might have this, I hope I have this correct, but they're in Egypt and there's the scene with Jaws, right? And Triple X and Bond and whatever happens. And I think something ends up crashing down on Jaws, right?
Okay.
Right? Am I right? Okay.
I think doesn't he knock a statue on him?
Something like that, right?
Because they're in that little van and
yes.
Jaws like holding the van. I think they knock a statue on him.
Something like that.
Or a column.
And then Bond says, he makes like a comment like, Egyptian builders, like Egyptians were
like
bad at building things.
The Egyptians that have built there for thousands of years. Like what? Egyptian architecture.
Yeah,
I don't know what the lines, but I know what you're saying. It's like, but it worked for more.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. It did. It was just kind of like,
I get you.
It was weird. It was a weird line. But that's literally me, like with a 1,000 zoom microscope, trying to find something that I don't like about The Spy Who Loved Me, because I love this movie. Yeah. It's probably out of the more ones, it's between this and Live and Let Die that I watch the most, that I go back to the most. I go back to Spy Who Loved Me and Live and Let Die all the time. I'll probably watch Spy Who Loved Me tonight now that we're talking about it, because I'm so amped thinking about it.
Yeah, this is the film too. When we rank our films, it's not lower than others because it's not as good. It's just the ones that go above it are just so much better to me.
Yes,
so it's like this is like, let's say it's 1 out of 10, and if I put it at 10, which I don't think I did, that means 1 through 9 are minusculely better. Like when you get to my top 10 Bonds, any day of the week I probably could change, especially my top 5. At my top 5, any day of the week, depending on how I'm feeling, can change with Bond. Top 10, you're getting into the cream of the crop for me. And this is just everything. It's just like you said, when things don't work, like from Diamonds Are Forever, just nothing's working. Even though some pieces might work, this is like the puzzle. Every piece fits. Everything fits for me.
I agree. From the song to the cold open to the Bond girl to the plot to the villain to the gadgets to the Bond to the henchman to the everything. Yeah. This has every element. This is every element.
A gondola and Jaws is chewing the wire. It's brilliant.
It's so good on every level, and this is it. It's in my top of. It's in my top 10 for sure, and I'm with you. Sometimes mine move around. Like when I was doing the Back to the Future book, everybody would ask me, "So what's your favorite Back to the Future movie?" And it literally, from one interview to the other, my answer would change because I'd start thinking, "Oh man, I really love 2. 2 is really good. No, 1's perfect." Then 3, I would always end up saying 3 was my favorite. It would just change based upon just what I was feeling at the moment. And my Bond movies are the same. My Bond list of the actors does not change. It is very.
Mine has not changed either.
It is very strong in what I've always thought since
you're
Skyfall.
Right, because I'll say this: the more I watch those films, the more it solidifies certain actors for me. Mm-hmm. There's a couple. I think with Brosnan and Moore, for me, I'm so torn between the two of them. And when we're done, like because of certain runs of certain actors and where they left the role, that does hurt it or help it.
Yeah, so I agree.
Yeah.
Moore and Brosnan are the only ones on my list that could potentially change. They could potentially flip, but I like where I am right now with it. Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
let's do some trivia here. Let's do some trivia. The closing credits say James Bond will return in For Your Eyes Only. But Because of the success of Star Wars in 1977 and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, they chose to go with Moonraker in 1979 instead of For Your Eyes Only. It makes sense. It's a very movie studio producer thing. Hey, these space movies are hot. We're going to do Moonraker. Why don't we just do it now?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. It's a weird one. They went to go up and like high, down, up. Yeah.
But I do like that they went with Moonraker next, only because Moonraker, I think, gave us the For Your Eyes Only that we got, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So we'll talk about that when we get there. By the time this movie was made, the James Bond franchise was the most lucrative in the world, and many manufacturers wanted their products featured. The great competition for the company that would supply there was great competition for the company that would supply James Bond's car. The PR manager of Lotus realized that the best way to win this coveted position was to make the producers chase after him rather than going to beg them to put his car in the movie. One day he turned up at Pinewood Studios driving a brand new unreleased Lotus with all identifying names covered up. He parked it outside the Bond set, knowing that the producers would see it when they broke for lunch. Once the car had attracted a crowd, all clamoring to know what the car was, they then, McLaughlin, who was the PR director, got in the car nonchalantly and drove away without answering anyone's questions. As he expected, the producers were desperate to discover what the car was, and producer Albert R. Broccoli later chose the Lotus for the movie.
It worked. Ballsy, but it worked.
I think the best Bond car is still Aston Martin, but the Lotus is great.
Yeah, the more era, like that Lotus really does stick, but you really don't think of a Bond car with more other than the Lotus.
No, yeah, it's definitely the Lotus.
Other one.
And here's an interesting fact is that Elon Musk, who owns Tesla, owns the Lotus from this movie.
Really?
He owns the Spy Who Loved Me Lotus. Okay. Interesting fact there. Where was the next one? The Union Jack parachute that Bond uses the opening sequence of the movie is actually an incorrect design. The red cross of St. Patrick is swapped with the white cross of St. Andrew in one corner. Prince Charles did not notice this when he was attending the movie's premiere. When he saw the Union Jack, he stood up and honored the flag during the middle of the screening. So that's an interesting fact there.
Yeah.
But this is the one. This is the one.
This is
that drives me crazy. Okay.
Okay.
The first director considered for The Spy Who Loved Me was the then relatively young in his career, Steven Spielberg. There was some worry about his inexperience as he was caught up on an extremely lengthy pre-production schedule for a movie he was making at the time called Jaws, which then provided inspiration for the character Jaws in this movie. I had always heard this before. I heard that Spielberg was approached to do Spy Who Loved Me, and that Albert R. Broccoli actually said, let's see how his fish movie turns out first. And they named Jaws as kind of a rib to Steven Spielberg because the talk around town, and I heard this on a podcast called, what was the name of that show? Blockbuster was the name of the podcast, I believe. Okay. And they chronicled Steven Spielberg's career making Jaws. And the quote literally was, let's see how he does with his little fish movie, because the talk around town was, this was the most troubled, disastrous production ever. Yeah. The shark doesn't even work half the time. It's over budget. It's overblown. I don't know if he was talking to Red Grant while they were making the movie, and he was giving Broccoli some tips on what was going on. But Spielberg always wanted to direct the Bond. Forever.
Yeah, he's always wanted to. Like, do you think? Okay, so do you think? And because I don't know much about Jaws. I'm not one of those. I'm not in the camp of Jaws. Like, I enjoy the film. I think it's great. Great, but I'm not like I am about Bond or Batman films or something like that with Jaws. Was Spielberg such a fan of Bond that he cast Robert Shaw? Like he wanted to work with him? I wonder if that's like. Because if you're thinking about Bond villains at the time, Robert Shaw is one of the greatest.
Yeah, I'm sure that it got him in the door.
It's got to be like, you know. But then to think about, okay, so Jaws comes out. Biggest movie of, was it 74, right?
75.
74, I believe. 75. Biggest movie, that huge. People say that was the movie that crowned the summer blockbuster. Like that started summer blockbusters. Like I would love to know them where Eon and company then we got to get this guy.
We screwed up.
But I think at that point he's like, oh, sorry, I got other stuff I got to do. I'm so surprised.
Well, after Jaws, he did Close Encounters, right? So which came out the same year.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I would love to see that kind of. It's funny in the research of Bond, like things that don't work out, they really don't ever talk about. Like the other actors that didn't make it far, the other directors they recorded, like, yeah, it didn't work, move on. Like, but I wonder on the Spielberg people that do books on Spielberg and stuff, I wonder if there was more of a courtship and a talking or at least meeting and finding out. But he eventually made his Indiana Jones.
Well, and that's
like their.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Bond.
Is George Lucas eventually went to him and said, "Hey, you want to make a James Bond movie? I got a great idea for Indiana Smith."
It's funny. Like, not funny. It's just we get these great characters because other people have properties. Like we have Star Wars because Lucas couldn't do Flash Gordon,
right?
So we have Indiana Jones because he never did Bond.
Yeah,
those great stories of what ifs.
Like, hey, let's just make a new character. And
I always think that's better instead of trying to woo someone else to do their property. Create your own property.
But James Bond, more iconic. Ooh, that's actually really hard. Like, is it James Bond or Indiana Jones?
Oh, I mean, on the one hand, you've got 60 plus years of films,
right?
And don't get me wrong, Indiana Jones is one of my favorite characters of all time.
That's a hard one. I would say James Bond, though. I would say
the only argument I have against that is I think Indy's more universally loved than Bond.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
more people,
and also that like I don't want to see another actor play Indiana Jones. I'm excited for who's going to be Bond next. So that's a tough one.
Are you excited for Indy 5? Is the question.
I was very excited for Indy 4, and I was really kind of let down. But the fact that Mangold's on board and Logan is what he's done with an aged character, and when they know they're going and telling a swan song of a character, like their final, like Mangold is the key for me. If it was just Spielberg again with Lucas on board, I was like, I don't know if I'd be on board. But it's Mangold. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. Have they wrapped on that movie? Is it wrapped? Did they wrap
I thought
filming?
they're still filming.
Are they still filming?
I thought they had a COVID shutdown and they're still filming. But
I cannot wait because that movie has been delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed.
He's not getting any younger.
He's 80, isn't he?
Yeah. But I heard that they're doing some scenes where he's going to be the CGI make him younger. For like younger flashback scenes. So I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. It's Mangold. So what they did with Logan and an aging character saying they're kind of swan song film, that's got some good hope on.
I like that they're going with Mangold over Spielberg. Like I was a little nervous with Spielberg at the helm.
Yeah.
Not that he's not still a great filmmaker, but just I don't think that he has the touch for the blockbuster.
I think he's one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. I just think Crystal Skull was a little, it didn't work.
I like it.
All right, then we'll move on from this then.
Spy Who Loved Me. Yeah. Rotten Tomatoes score. Last time we had 39%, the lowest Bond score to date. But what do we think of this?
We were in the middle of talking about this. I was caught up in the rapture of excitement. I'm saying it is a whopping jump up to an 85%.
Mike Kalinowski, you're so damn close. 81%. 81? 81. Certified fresh. Though it hints at the absurdity to come in later installments, The Spy Who Loved Me's sleek style, menacing villains, and sly wit make it the best of the Roger Moore era, is what Rotten Tomatoes says. I do not disagree with them. This might be the peak. This might be the peak of Moore.
We'll talk about it in two more films. When we get to For Your Eyes Only, the two of these films, vastly different films, vastly different tones, and I flip-flop every single time. No, I don't. For Your Eyes Only is my strongest film of Moore's.
It's really
we'll
good.
talk about why.
We'll talk about why when we get there. Mike Kalinowski, the people find you at Mike Kalinowski, correct?
Always, as always.
As always, you can find me at Brad Gilmore. Go get the book, Bond, James Bond. exploring the shaken stirred history of Ian Fleming's 007. It's available on all book websites, major book retailers, or on JamesBondBook.com. Make sure you leave a little rating and review for the podcast. Why the hell not? You're here, you're listening. If you enjoy it, let us know. Give us some feedback. Tweet us your opinion of this movie. What did you think of The Spy Who Loved Me? Are we giving it too much praise? Are we not giving it enough praise?
And if you don't like it, why not?
Yeah, why don't you like it? I would love to know that too. But we will return with 1979's Moonraker. Until then, Mike, see you, man.
See you, buddy.
Oh, Brad, what have you done now? Oh, Brad, what have you done now?